And welcome to Recovery Report Live. I'm Dan Odess, president of GlobalPro, where we manage risk to recovery, and we've managed more than $1 billion in recovery. You've heard it here so many times, us talk about the important issues that are impacting you. Well, I want to first off wish you all a belated happy Valentine's Day. It's an opportunity to share love and kindness, and I hope the legislator takes that to heart and does the same as they head into this year's legislative session where, hey, it's an opportunity to right your wrong and share a little love and kindness for all of us policyholders. Why do I say that? Well, there's a lot going on right now. First off, we have a new appointee to the Office of Insurance Regulation. Governor DeSantis made an appointment to a Michael, I'm going to totally mispronounce this, but Yaworski, Yaworski. Now, Mr. Yaworski has a deep history of what seems to be protecting the insurance industry. So we've had tumultuous legislation being passed, a knee-jerk reaction to some of the issues that are impacting it. The pendulum has swung so far in favor of the insurance industry. The idea that we have all been sold on is that it's going to save us money on insurance. It's going to make a competitive market that's attractive to insurance companies. New insurance companies, existing insurance companies are going to flock to Florida to sell us more affordable products, better products. But the reality it is that soon after the legislation was signed into law, as we all know, and now the Governor DeSantis has ratified those bills and made them law, they came out. Those that have supported these bills and made them law and said, don't expect any savings. Don't expect any impact on your insurance, whether it's rates or products or service or anything else, for at least 18 months. Now, interestingly enough, well, that's what we were told was going to happen. The whole reason why this stuff was supported, the whole reason why the legislators ignored hours of testimony from policyholder advocates as well as insurance companies' very own adjusters came out and provided like amazing amounts of testimony about how insurance companies were literally fraudulently changing their reports and underpaying claims, intentionally denying things, et cetera, et cetera. This is recent history. This isn't old news. This is stuff that's coming out right now. There's lawsuits been filed, class actions, and all of that was ignored. No changes were made to these bills. They were passed and approved and then signed into law by the governor. And here we have is yet another insurance company-friendly individual in a position of power to make changes that impact you. So now, just understand that this is a very interesting time for policyholders. Why? Because again, they ran a campaign that this was going to make changes. So where are the changes going to be meant? This whole thing was meant to stabilize a tumultuous market while reducing avenues by which claimants can seek recompensation for attorney's fees. Now, so we've not only strengthened the market for insurance companies, we've dulled the sword that you as a policyholder have to wield when an insurance company doesn't do what they're supposed to be doing. So you have a lack of accountability. They've built in these kind of nonsense audit process that, quite frankly, many of us don't even get to see or are going to know anything of. It's really kind of almost seems like voluntarily. Governor DeSantis has stated historic reforms create an environment which realigns Florida to best practices across the nation, adding much needed stability to Florida's market, promoting competition and choice. That's a direct quote. Again, well, he says that, and the legislators that actually promoted the bills flat out said that that's not going to happen. Okay, they said 18 months, expect no change in 18 months. I can already tell you that in my own renewals, I'm not seeing any sort of impact. You would think that knowing that this stuff just got passed and is made into law, that you would see any sort of impact. And me as even a consumer are not even seeing that this sort of impact that you might expect. Where is the competition? What stability are they even talking about? We haven't actually seen the numbers. So again, I think it's as you heard me say in many other prior episodes, it's total bullshit. These laws didn't do anything other than just pad the pockets of the insurance companies who are making amazing amounts of profits off of this stuff. They keep saying, oh, they're suffering, it's not profitable. all total bullshit. Where's the accountability? It's not there. We understand what this is. So I would say this, on the Office of Insurance Regulation, which Michael is now appointee to, it states, to promote a stable and competitive insurance market for consumers. So again, it kind of reiterates the same point, right? So the bills, which the legislation passed along party lines, while again, it drew a lot of public testimony, which you would believe in influence or may have changed or softened some of the hard anti-consumer legislation that was included in there. It didn't do anything. There was actually no changes made, and it passed overwhelmingly. And as I noted in one prior broadcast, one of the representatives that actually supported this bill, huge hypocrite, himself hired public adjuster, attorney to sue his insurance company, awarded attorney's fees, et cetera, and here he is promoting a bill that honestly would mitigate any sort of opportunity that you as a consumer would have to hiring someone to be able to do these things. So be careful what this is going on here. We're seeing this transition. Again, this position has been empty, that Michael was taking the position for since December. So he's now going to be filling the role there. But again, this is a guy that was Georgia Office of Insurance and Safety Fire Commission. He was Georgia Senate Pro Tempora's office from 2014 to 2022. He's got a heck of a resume if you're looking for a pro insurance individual, because I can tell you that having practiced in public adjusting in Georgia, one of the worst consumer markets for public adjusting or as a policyholder, you have almost like no leverage against your insurance company. It's almost kind of like take of whatever they're going to give you kind of situation. Maybe go to appraisal. There's some negotiation early on, but don't expect any sort of real impact that any sort of lawyer may have on the claims themselves. That's not to say that you shouldn't make sure that your claim is well documented and presented and everything else. Obviously, that's going to make it much more difficult for them to stand on their nonsense positions. That's why our clients hire us early on in that process, is to avoid the dispute. Because if the dispute happens, I can tell you right now, in Georgia, good luck. You want to avoid it by doing a heck of a lot of upfront work that you otherwise maybe can't afford, or need to dip into your own reserves or pockets or profits as a business owner to be able to do it. So we front those expenses and do those things working with our clientele, because honestly, it's the only way to avoid the dispute. Because if you get into a dispute in Georgia, good luck. This gentleman was involved in making some of influencing the way Georgia manages its claims. Now he's down in Florida, okay? So I can tell you I'm a little bit concerned. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he can help, level the playing field a little bit, but it's kind of tough. We'll see what happens though. Again, it's a little too early to tell. It's good to see that the position's been filled. The laws have been passed. We've had a bunch of people resign shortly thereafter, or notice of resignation. So it's a big shakeup. It's anyone's guess, but definitely the legislation is no help. But again, we're progress. We're moving forward. The silver lining is that you still have a right to higher representation, whether it's public adjuster, attorneys. There are individuals out there like myself and our company GlobalPro that are working on your behalf. We can still do those things and making sure you need us more than ever before. The confusing legislation regarding roof repairs and mitigation and obligations and placing insurance. I was just noticed of a very interesting relationship. We're doing a lot of investigative work around one particular brokerage and a big insurance company down here selling commercial policies. I can tell you basically on the first pass and the first whiff of it, doesn't seem very kosher, doesn't seem very honorable, and it seems as if a lot of people may be hoodwinked here and thinking that because they have a better product with this particular insurance company, maybe at a better price, but their tactics of dealing with claims are highly questionable. One of the things that they're doing is basically saying, hey, if you have damage to your elevator, even though every single manufacturer that I can find that manufactures ropes and equipment for elevators says that if the ropes or the equipment gets wet, it needs to be replaced, this insurance company is saying, we're not going to pay for it. What we're going to do is we're going to come back if you experience any issues later on, and we'll investigate it for you in the future. Because we just don't see enough. It's not that it's not there. It's not that the manufacturers don't say that based on warranty and product manufacturing that these things need to happen. Hey, let's set all that logic aside and let's substitute it for our profit and say, oh, we'll come back. But what happens if you don't renew with them? Also, what happens if they come back and investigate and still don't believe they owe you the money in your new renewal process, and now you need to go back and reopen an old claim, and now with the statute of limitations that has shrunk and is shrinking, continues to shrink, and you have less and less time to do these things, you have less and less opportunity, and again, the manufacturers and the engineers, that is what the logic for which we should be relying on, not the profits of an insurance company. And so we have been reopening dozens of these claims against the same insurance company. And guess what they do? Almost out of the gates, they hire an attorney to come in and do an exhaustive investigation into everything that's going on in the building. So much what has nothing to do with the insurance claims themselves. On and on and on, bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. Again, this is one brokerage firm working with one insurance company, fighting against other brokers. I got a phone call from another broker who is fed up with this one broker in the relationship that they have with this particular insurance company. And we're working together with them as well as 3 other big-time brokers in the condo market. So we're coming for them. We're going to make sure that everyone is aware of what the situation is. We're going to expose the truth. We're going to fight back against this stuff just like we have always done as a consumer advocate. So look for more information about that. Moving over to Texas. All right, so big case out there. Just got filed. Well, I guess it's been going on for a little bit. Samsung suing its own insurance company, right? $400 million in claims tied to a power blackout in 2021. Filing a lawsuit. You think of a company of the size of Samsung with this massive insurance policy. So they're suing FM, which is Factory Mutual Insurance Company, right? And this is a quote. They are saying that they suffered catastrophic losses, and the insurer refused to cover the full cost as part of a quote-unquote broader scheme to underpay all storm-related claims by Texas policyholders. That is what Samsung is saying. So if you're a homeowner or a small business owner and you suffered any sort of winter storm damages, and you don't think that you need representation, we have an insurance. They paid $126 million already to Samsung. Samsung is saying that there's a broader scheme here. So you have corporate America, you have huge corporation, not corporate America, but you have a huge corporation suing its own insurance company, $400 million, exposing a broader scheme to underpay all storm-related claims. Now let's FM Global. Now, Factory Mutual. So Factory Mutual is defending this claim. So it says FM Global, Factory Mutual, has wrongfully and in bad faith refused to honor an agreement to insure its full share of Samsung Austin's covered losses. That's what the lawsuit actually says. So, again, look at your policies, look at the information in there. Understand that winter storm claims are very complicated, particularly if you have power outages. I know there was some misinformation we saw out there about additional living expenses for homeowners. I can tell you on the business income side of it, there's difference between the period of restoration and the business interruption period. There's all these different types of coverages that you may be afforded or are entitled to, and your insurance company will go back and pervert these things. What we're also seeing is this controversy over when the actual repairs need to start, when the mitigation stops, the emergency services. But the reality of it is that you can't get permits and you can't actually start to rebuild until the more favorable weather conditions. So this stuff continues on. So that period of restoration is a very interesting thing to analyze. And when you typically have a 30-day deductible, when that actually starts to actually accrue and where you can get a recovery on these income losses, we're spending a lot of time focusing on income stuff. So if you're a business owner, you want a little bit more information about this stuff, you want to see what our analysis will show you as what you're entitled to, reach out to us. Whether you're a big company like a Samsung or a small company like a small restaurant, maybe it's your only location. Again, we've handled the biggest hospitality groups to your small restaurant groups, to hotels, to warehouse claims, manufacturing claims. We have the expertise that you need. We have the licensed professionals on staff that can make make it so that you understand actually what your rights are, what you're entitled to, what your obligations are to your insurance company, how you need to give notice. Because one of the things that we saw in a recent claim that we got is really how to do with the notice. The way that the notice was given by the broker to the insurance company was wrong. They used the wrong date of loss. They also did not notice them of the additional issues that they have in their claim and potential additional claims that they have under the policy, because they have limits, they have sublimits, and you need to give proper notice to your insurance companies. So it's really important that you look at the notice requirements and that you do broadly notice them of each of the potential claims. You always can go back and say, you know what, I thought I may have had, but I don't. It's easier to do that than to say, I didn't know I had it, but now I do. They can argue prejudice. Now, it's a really good word. Whether or not it'll actually happen or stick or make sense is totally something different. So pay close attention to that stuff. Make sure you understand what you're entitled to. Your broker sells a product. Your broker is not an adjuster. They don't have the expertise. And so because they don't have the expertise in actually managing claims, now they have claims professionals on staff, right? But again, those claims professionals on staff most often are not licensed as public adjusters. Most of them are risk manager officers, are great with liability issues, slip and falls, personal injury, workman comp, maybe even E&O and D&O. But when it comes to property losses or income claims, stuff is very complicated. They're not looking at case law. They're not looking at common law. They're not looking at general business practices of insurance adjusters. They're not participating in the adjustments in the field and ascertaining damages and estimating and doing all these things. They're not doing that. They're pushing paper. They're just making sure that someone is on the other end of the phone, answering your questions in whatever manner in which they can based on information they've been given by insurance companies. We don't care about the information as much from the insurance companies as we do what the policy says and what the laws say. We want to stick to that. Again, a lot of times you'll see insurance company pervert the intent of the policy to mean something that fits their agenda, whatever that may be. We see that frequently. In fact, when I told you about the relationship between one broker and an insurance company, again, the policies doesn't entitle the insurance company to come back if you think you have damage later. It says you owe me for my damages. When dealing with one of those claims, by way of example, I asked the insurance company, where is this warranty that you're offering to come back at some other point? Where does it entitle you to it? What it says is, I have damage, which I could easily substantiate with engineering reports, manufacturing information. I submitted a proof of loss. There's no disagreement that there is damage to the property. And if there is, what is your basis for it? Provide it to me. I'll take it one step further. They even engage someone that's not even licensed to inspect or evaluate anything to do with elevators. I have testimony from the same individual, which says that he broke the law on several occasions, many occasions, by actually going into an elevator shaft and performing evaluation of elevator, despite the fact that this individual has no experience in actually building, installing, or doing anything with elevators. Simply a licensed general contractor that took a particular interest in elevators and got paid a lot of money for so many years by insurance companies to write what they needed in order to underpay or deny claims. That's it. That's all it is. It wasn't a foreman of an elevator company, wasn't not a mechanical engineer who used to design elevators, has no actual qualifications other than the fact that for years insurance companies have relied on him to do their bidding by undervaluing the repairs that are needed in order to restore a damaged elevator. That's it, okay? So by way of that example, think about the complexity when you're dealing with an extended period of time where you have damages to buildings or to businesses caused by a winter storm that lasts several days, when power goes out, that it takes time to discover issues. And then you're relying on your broker to make sure you know it doesn't make sense. So I beg of you, if there's anything that you learned from this broadcast, take your time in the process, reach out to us, let us know what we can do to help you or assist you. But as always, if you haven't already, like us, follow us on all our social media, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. We want to make sure that you continue to provide you information you can use. That's just one source right here for you at all times. We are doing what we can, bringing on professionals in the industry. We just had one on last week, an amazing conversation. Got to sit down with a contractor that is heavily involved in the development projects throughout South Florida. Gave us incredible insight as to what he sees, where the industry and market are going. That's what we're doing here, providing you information you can use. So again, like us, follow us on all our social media to make sure that you get the notifications when we go live right here on the Recovery Report Live.